Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today it's time to have a look at a new battlecruiser which is going to be coming to the game in update Danger Zone, and this is of course the HMS Hood. This has been long awaited for many naval interested parties, I suppose, especially ones interested in the British Navy, the Royal Navy, and the reason is pretty simple. It's a really cool machine and also has a very interesting history from it, spanning the First World War to, of course, its end in the Second World War. The HMS Hood is going to be coming in to the game for the British Tech Tree after the Colossus, which of course is a battleship, and the Invincible, which is a battle cruiser as well. And at the same time, being an underlined vehicle means it's going to be harder to grind out, but generally it shouldn't be too bad at surviving and being able to get those modifications. The Hood's main armament is 4 dual-mounted 15-inch guns. These are now at least close to, if not the biggest guns that we have in the game at this moment. The 15-inch BL Mark 1s are huge, and having 8 of them is definitely going to pack a punch. At the same time, this vehicle has 7 4-inch dual mounts, which you can find in the center of the vehicle, and also 3 octuplet sets of 40mm. This is not the First World War Hood that you may be used to. This is the World War II refit from 1941 of the Admiral class HMS Hood. You can see the octo pounders right here, which were actually present in the game before, but they just look so cool. And when you ever see them firing and stuff, they're just absolutely fantastic. It also has 4 quad mounts of the Vickers guns. I feel sorry for whoever has to man these things. You can see them actually right here on the machine, which is pretty nice to see. So it does have decent AA armament, and also has some very large main guns, which will help it out. Now, being a battle cruiser, the HMS Hood is definitely not one which has the most armor compared to other vehicles, but it still has a very thin belt of 300mm, which will serve it well. It also has a belt of 177, above that 127, and then below the waterline you're talking about 76.2, then 12.7mm. So really not a lot at the bottom there. 254 on the general area here, but on the actual ammo elevators, you're looking at 304mm once again, and on the front of the turrets, 381mm to try and keep those things operational. The bridge has 279mm, so it might be easier to take that out, but if we compare this to a lot of other machines, the armor is okay, but it's definitely not up there with the best. Instead, it's very middling, at least when it comes to the belt. The ammo elevators are beautifully crafted, and as you can see, for these massive 15-inch guns, which are technically the 381mm guns, which are slightly bigger than the Bayerns which are being added, you can see the ammo elevators and the amount of ammunition at the bottom, which I'm sure many people will pop up. Another thing that you might have already noticed is the torpedoes as well. This thing has access to 12 torpedoes, and you can see some of them set up here. You can see the torpedo tubes, which are stationary ones, which you fire out of the width of the machine, and hopefully can hit some targets with them, even though it's going to be quite hard to do. What is also interesting is they do actually have the rocket ideas modeled, but I don't think you can use them yet. Maybe they'll do that at some point. The guns, the 15-inch guns, have a fire rate of 2 rounds per minute. So this thing actually reloads worse than a lot of other machines in the game. It has a 30-second reload on the main guns, and a very bad targeting speed of only 2 degrees per second. The fire director for the actual machine, though, as you can see, 100% measure accuracy, 18 seconds on the fire solution calculation, and the rangefinder is 85% accurate on the 15-inch guns. So hopefully you won't have to miss too much in order to hit the target. Maybe it should be alright in general. You can see the engines, which is set up here. It's also got fuel tanks around it, so it can't use coal bunkers to give it some extra armor as it goes around, but the transmissions themselves are pretty open to the wild, with only 300 millimeters of armor, which kind of sit themselves there. But with the amount of AA that this thing has, and also the fire directors there, generally that should be quite an advantage for it compared to a lot of other machines that we have in the game. It also has a massive crew complement, 1,400, which will give it extra survivability compared to other machines, and also at the same time it's actually pretty quick, nearly 60 kilometers an hour, mainly because it's not as heavy as some other machines that are around. The 381mm guns start off with some SAP, penning 487, 398, 198, and they also get an APC shell. So the SAP also has 58 kilos worth of explosive mass in it, whereas the APC only has about 20 kilos of TNT equivalent, but it does pen a lot more, 631, 491, 231, so this should be able to go through pretty much anything that you find on the battlefield. The 102mm, which are the secondary armament, they have access to HE, SAP, and also HETF. So no HEVT unfortunately, but everything else that you would ever want. It does have a torpedo mode too, which gives its torpedoes 5,000 extra meters, which will basically mean that they are kind of useful. Instead of only being able to go like 3 or 4 kilometers, they can go nearly 10. Still not great overall when it comes to the vehicle, so I feel like a lot of people are just not going to run these things, and they're going to just run other stuff. No hydroplane on this thing, which kind of sucks. You can see that there is kind of room for one, but they never actually gave it one, unfortunately, during the 1941 area. Could have really done with one, the Hood, especially after what generally happened to it. But it's super nice to see the Hood. It's one which, you know, I know many people have been looking forward to for an incredibly long time, and just like a lot of other Royal Navy machines, I was a little bit worried about the fact it would get added, and unfortunately it would kind of be set, or it would be kind of screwed from launch, or not maybe screwed, but you know, not as combat effective as a lot of other vehicles that are around it. It reminds me of the Dreadnought when it was added, for example, and stuff like the Liverpool as well. But at least right now, when it comes to the vehicle itself, I think it is safe to say that it is coming in the strongest point that it's ever going to be in, which of course is its refit, so it gets all of the AAs to be able to survive with, and also the main guns are still there to be able to do a ton of damage with. So this thing gets some really nice guns. They take ages to turn. These models are absolutely beautiful. You can see the pom-poms going after this guy here, and eventually they'll hit it. If I had better crews, that thing would be dead, so let's just put it like that. But when it comes to the main guns, you know, with the SAP, you're probably not going to do as much damage to some lower machine vehicles. Instead, you're going to mainly do it against larger machines, so it might be worth actually setting up to hit something like this guy over here. But once again, you can still use the smaller caliber guns while you're waiting for the larger ones to actually reload, and I think this is something which they're going to go forward with, because it'll actually give you something to do while you wait for the guns to reload. And as we get bigger and bigger machines, we've already seen machines with 60-second reloads. Well, the Hood has 30 seconds, and it feels like an eternity on the machine itself. So I really do feel like that's going to be a standard for pretty much all of these vehicles going forward. The guns should do a ton, as you can see, just bopping that Hipper class machine right there, and all accurate hits, taking out 40% of his crew without even thinking on the vehicle, which has been really nice, and also at the same time just crippling it going forward. And that's what's going to happen when you get hit by a Hood in the game. The only real question is, will the Hood be able to take a hit after after something is fired at it? It can obviously dish out the damage as much as it wants to, but is it able to take it? And that's only going to be something that is found out in the future when it comes to this general machine. I'm so happy to see this machine though. One of the prides of the general British Navy in the 1930s and 1920s period. and lovely to see it in all of its glory when it comes to War Thunder. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Merciless Reaper, Jerry Provolt, Mega Dino King, Professor X1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, Moxie, B. Young, and Derek R., Barine, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.